Hey guys, myself Rakesh, and in this video we are going to learn something new around the API. So in the last two videos I have already showed you how do you really do a HTTP request, what is a JSON object, what are the JSON properties, everything I have taught in a very clear way. In this one we are going to see something different. In the JSON object the format could be very different. So how do you really act on those formats? I am going to show you in this video. So before we proceed, please do subscribe to my channel. Do not forget, please do subscribe to my channel. Please do support me. And now let's get started and understand. Now the very first thing what you do, we need to go to a website from where we can get such JSON objects for our practice purpose. So last time I have shown you the open weather API from where you have got the URL, endpoint URL, and you have done the practice. Now in this one we are going to get on to, there is something called randomuser. Okay, so this website, let me first show you. This generally creates a random user. For example, every time you refresh, right, this will have some other name, right? Every time you refresh, every time you make a request, this will give you some more other details of the user. Now randomuser.me is the portal, and here all you have to do / and simply type API. Simple, hit on enter. Okay, the moment you hit on enter, what you see is this one. You see a new set of JSON that is coming, and you can see the first name is Melike. Okay, now if I refresh this, now you can see the first name has changed to Federico. So likewise it is going to keep on changing the data every time you refresh the, or every time, that means every time I make a request to the website there will be a new user. It's a random user, it will generate, and you can see the entire data is in the JSON format when I say API. If I go back to the normal site, it was in the normal user interface format, right? When I go to randomuser.me, you can see it is there in the normal feature that you see in a website. But the background data of a website could be a JSON, or could be a HTML, or it could be XML. So here this particular site gives you the JSON data. So let's see how we can utilize that and what exactly I'm going to teach you on this. Okay, I'm going to show you. So this one you understood. What you do, copy this URL. Okay, so once you copy this, okay, so what we will do, we'll go through a couple of activities. The first activity I taught you, when it comes to web automation, there are a couple of activities that you need. One is the HTTP request, and you need the deserialize JSON. So now tell me, if I type HTTP request, right, I got this activity. In case you have not installed WebAPI.activities, you can see you need to install, go to manage packages and type UiPath WebAPI activities. With that you will be able to see this activity. Okay, HTTP request. Okay, all you do, go to manage package, install it. I'm pretty sure most of you have done it by following my previous video. So HTTP request. Okay, now here in the endpoint I asked you to copy that URL, copy paste it. Okay, and here nothing to do, really you don't have to do anything on this. All you do, hit on preview, because this every API would act in a different way. So here this API is to get the JSON data, so automatically the method is get. Okay, the moment I am using this endpoint, it is getting me the data. So you can see the entire data has come in the JSON format. Now once you do this until here, all you do, copy this data and open a notepad and paste it. This is very important. Keeping this on a notepad, that is where you will have complete understanding. Okay, now let's look at the data. So what has happened in the last video, if you recall, I told you every JSON will start with a curly braces and will end with a curly brace, and inside that what you find are nothing but JSON objects. What are this? This is a JSON object. So here is one JSON object, and down below there is another JSON object, and inside this two JSON object, if you see, this is an array of child JSON objects. So JSON object means you will have a colon. Okay, so this is one object and this is an array, and inside the array you have multiple child JSON object, anything with a colon. Okay, child object. So this is a child object. So this is very important for you to remember what I said. This is your JSON. Only when you know these terms, you will be able to really go through this exercise. Otherwise, you'll be completely confused. So remember, the parent JSON objects in this JSON, there are two parent JSON object. One is the result, the other one is this one. Even the info, this is also the JSON object. Okay, JSON, you can say parent object. Okay, parent object. Understood? Now inside this JSON parent object, there is a child JSON object. So this is the child object. So this is child object. Okay, and then any column. So this is another child object. So that is child one. This is probably, you can say, child 2 JSON object. Okay, now inside this child, what are this? Inside this curly braces, whatever you are writing, right? So this becomes the JSON property. You call this as JSON property, and right, this becomes the JSON property, and with the JSON property you have a value. Getting it? So identifying all this is very important. So what is the JSON object in this? This is the JSON object, because there is a square bracket used here. So any object that is again created inside will become a child JSON object. So this is a child object, 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 this is a, right? So all these are child objects. This is again child object having properties. So inside, this is the object, child object. Inside this, within this parenthesis, these are the properties of the child. For example, name. So name will have a title, it will have a first name, it will have a last name or a middle name. So these are the properties of that object, right? A street, for example, location. Your location will have a street address, right? It will have a name. City will have a name, right? Country will have a name. So these are only single value. This is the object and this is the value. This is the object, this is the value. This doesn't have a property. Without property, this object doesn't have a property. Now the direct value it has. Now look at this coordinate. This has two properties, latitude, longitude. So this is called object. These are the object properties. We're defining that object. Any object will have some property, right? Same thing. So email is an object, has a value. It doesn't have any other property apart from that, right? Login has got multiple properties. So login object has got UUID, username, password. These are the properties of that. Okay. DOB has a date and age. So DOB is an object and these are the properties of that object. So there is an object and there are properties, right? Any object will have a property. Let's say there's an iPhone, there's a property, length, width, weight, cost. These are the property of a phone. Same way, every object could have multiple properties or may not have any properties. For example, if you see city just have a value. So these are the JSON object. Getting it? So having this understanding is important. I hope with this explanation you got an understanding. Okay, let me ask you. If I ask you, hey, how many parent objects are there in this JSON? So you should be able to quickly tell me. This is the first one. So this is the one object. Then it has an array, and this array is going to end here. So all these are the child objects inside the parent object until here, right? Okay, and then there is another parent object info, and info has, this object has properties. Okay, got it. Now if I ask you, does the child object also has properties? You will say yes, it may or may not have. So this is a child object, this directly have a value. There is another child object called name. So name will have multiple properties, like it will have a title, first name, last name. So yes, this object has properties. So an object could have properties or may not have properties. It can directly have a value. For example, city is an object, it has a direct value, it doesn't have any other properties around that. So so you understood, right, from this example. Okay, now what exactly I am really trying to cover, I am going to show you. Let's go back to the UiPath Studio. Okay, so what you have done till now, you have just dragged and dropped the HTTP request and you have put the endpoint URL. You did nothing, you click on OK. That's it. All right, now what is the next step? So the output of this HTTP request, what is the output of this HTTP request? Where would you write that output? There is something called, if you go to the output section of the property, here you have something called a response count. Response content. Okay, so in the response content you create a variable, and this response will, this is a JSON format, but again that is available when you get a make a request, you get that in a string format. So let me create a variable called JSON string. Okay, so I'm just giving it a name called JSON string. Done. Now go to the variable panel. So in the variable panel, what you see, the variable which I have created, and the type is string. So the data, once you request from HTTP using HTTP request, the data that comes, it comes in a string format. That should be remembered. Okay, you should remember that. Okay, so this is done. Now what is the next thing I should do? I should be able to utilize the data. For example, to do that, you have to deserialize JSON. So in the last video I have explained, I will try to explain again. Deserialize JSON means what? So now you have a string format. What you are getting from the HTTP request is a string. That string, I need to convert that to a JSON object. So only when I convert that to a JSON object, I can call out its property. So when I say object, think about a phone, right? A phone is an object. It has got properties. Like I will get to know its price is a property. The length of the phone is a property, right? The weight of the phone is a property. Kind of material used is a property, right? What is the processor inside the phone is a property of this object, right? Same way, this JSON string what I've got, I have to first convert that to an object so that I can retrieve the properties. So when I say retrieve the properties, I can retrieve the values of it, right? That is the objective. How I can get, this is the entire big JSON I have. From that I want to fetch only specific data. So how can I really do that? So this can be done only when you convert that to an object. So the string output, I need to convert that to object using the deserialize JSON. If you highlight this, this clearly tells you deserialize means the JSON string to an object format, JSON object will convert. Okay. All right. Now let's provide the JSON string variable. Okay. Given. Now on the property, go and create a object. So I'll create a variable and I'm going to give it the name called JSON object. Okay, understood. So now we have converted that string to a JSON object. Now I can pull any data. So let's see how I can pull the data. First of all, one by one you will learn, because this is a slightly complex. Okay, I'm going to show you. So I got a message box. Now as I said, there are two parent objects. So if I write JSON object, I'm saying JSON object, and I'm putting a parenthesis. Okay, I'll use a parenthesis, not a dot. It has to be always a parenthesis. Now the first object, let's say if I write result, so I'll copy this. So that's why I asked you to copy it into a notepad so that you will understand. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to paste it here. Now what would be the output? Tell me. If I say results, what would be the output? So look at this and tell me what would be, or think what should be the output. So all this I have written, so I'm going to remove that. Okay. Okay. Anyways, so this HTTP request, every time the data will change. It will not remain the same. You have seen that. So next time we'll get a different name. But again, what would be the exact output? Okay, let's run that. So what should be the exact output? Okay, give it a few seconds. Okay, it's running. Okay, so you can see the entire output has come, and this is having the, I said results, right? So it is having the data from this curly braces, right? This so you can see the square bracket is there and the curly braces is there, and then it has pulled all the data till the bottom. Okay, so this one is understood. Now if I write, let me close this. Now if I write info, then again what would happen? If I write info, then all this data would come, right? All this data will come if I write info. Okay, now if I have to access gender, I need gender, whether it's a male or, I want this. So I want this. In the previous video, what you are doing, you are simply putting a parenthesis, and within that you are writing the next object name, let's say gender. Now tell me, is it going to pull the data or not? Is it going to pull the data or not? So now if I run this, what will happen? Is it going to give me the value male or it's not? Okay, so let's see that. So it will throw an error. Okay, so the execution has completed. It has thrown an error. What it said? Access J array. Why is saying J array? I told you here this is an object, but again this object doesn't have a direct properties. It has got array of properties, not only one, array of properties. Getting it? So segregation. So the result has again a gender as one property, name as one property, location as one property, city, state, country, and all that, right? And also there is an email and a lot of things. That result has got array of properties. So array. So when it comes to array, what you think of? You think of index number, right? Okay. So what you do in this one? If I write, leave out gender, okay? I'm going to auto hide this. So instead of this, I'm going to remove that because it's an array of values, because that first parent object has an array of objects. Okay, array of properties, it has got different objects, and in that there are properties. So if I write within parenthesis, if I write 0, what is going to happen? What will happen if I write 0? Okay, let's run that and show you. If I say 0, right? So this result object, this JSON object has got one array or two arrays. So you can see it has pulled the entire data. So within the array, it has pulled the entire data till here, right? All this data is available till here. Okay, so this is one array. So it has got only one value, right? It has got one array of values. Now we got it. Now what would happen? Okay, Rakesh, good. I got to see that, but I am still confused. What if I write 1? Does it have one or multiple? Okay, you need to test that. Every JSON file that you get, you need to test and see this. Okay, that's what I'm teaching you. So you need to test and see, how the data is coming. If you see that square bracket, start applying 0, 1 and see how the data is pulling. If I write 1, because this entire data is one set of value, so what is happening? It is thrown an error saying index was out of range. That means that array has got only one value inside it. So how do you notice that? If you closely look at, right? So there is a curly braces here, and this one is ending before here. So this is only, sorry, here. So one set of data. Put a comma again. If you would have done, there will be two different set of data. Okay. So this is how you need to really understand the JSON file. That is where you will be able to master it. Okay. All right. So this one I have understood. Now Rakesh, tell me, how do I really get a value? I would like to fetch the value. Let's say gender. Now the same thing, does it have an array of data? No, it is a simple object, and you can just simply say info and then bracket seed. If you say this data will come, okay. But for this kind of a array specific JSONs, let's say I want to identify gender. All I'll do, copy this, go back to the studio, and after that array, so the array 1 is throwing error, so I'll use 0. I told you the reason why you have to write 0, why not 1, because there is only one single element inside that array. Now here again within the parenthesis, I will copy paste the gender. Now it is going to show me the output. So if I run this file, right, this time it's going to show me the gender value, whatever it could be. Okay, because every time the data is changing in the background, I said, right, it's a male, so it has shown me the male, right? What if I would like to pull the first name? How do I do it to pull the first name? Now you should tell me, how should I do it? Okay, so what is the parent object? Sorry, the child object name is name, right? So I'll say copy name. So instead of gender, I will say name. Okay, now there are two different codes. Okay, let me remove it. Okay, this is done, and then I want to find the first name. So I'll again copy this entire word till here, and then I will go here within the parenthesis. I will copy paste. Okay, so see how I'm writing. So it doesn't matter how many layers of data is there, you just have to mention the names of that object. Okay, so once this is done, now if I run it, is it going to show me the first name? So let me see, it could be a different data because the site is changing its data every time you refresh or every time you make a request. So the name has come, Amur. Okay, now I will give you a small task. The logic you have understood, how you can fetch the data from the JSON is a different style. Now I want you to combine the first name and last name together. It should show the output first name and last name together. And the second task, capture the first name last name together, and then capture the email address that is there. There is an email address, capture that, and maybe his age you capture. These are the three elements you capture from the JSON, and then store it in a Excel file. Okay, that can be done. I've already given this hints in the previous video, so you know how to build a data table and then add rows and then write it to Excel file. I have shown that, so you can just once you do it, please do comment that you have completed it. Okay, let me know who is doing it. So please do comment if you have done that exercise, and please do support me. Do not forget to like and subscribe to my channel, guys. Do support to my content that you're watching. That's going to motivate me, it's going to help me. Please do support by subscribing to the channel. So thank you guys for all the support. We're going to once again meet in our next content. Till then, take care. Bye bye.